warm welcome to this session of our older youth group webinar, our live webinar, which the older youth group on Let Us Talk It comes every other Saturday. Today is the day when they go live, but they do a prep session every week, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4:30 p.m. EST. So we do this prep session, we do this live webinar for a couple of reasons. One of them being that the kids, the youth, who join here, they talk on this topic. They learn a little bit more than they know. They learn from each other, and then they go live on this platform. But if you have kids and you want them to join, you can go to LetUsTalkIt.com/youth and register your kid and join the Zoom session. The Zoom link is same for all prep sessions, all live sessions, and there's no password, so it's very easy. And if you want to mentor the kids, you're more than welcome to do that. If you have any questions, you can directly WhatsApp me, or you can send an email to letustalkit.com. So, with that, we begin our session today. Our topic today is mythologies of the world, and one thing which, as soon as we hear the word mythology, it always reminds us of our heritage. So it's a constant reminder of who we are and where we come from. But and every culture has their own legends, own mythology, and own reasoning for their religion, maybe their myths, folk tales, legends, whatever you say. So today, our youth is will be trying to cover as many as they can. And if you are listening in on YouTube or Facebook, please do join the Zoom link and interact with our panelists. And we have as a moderator today Lemuel. Over to you, Lemuel. All the best, kids.
Hello, my name is Lemuel, and I am the moderator of this webinar. Our topic is mythology, and our table of contents is first we will meet the panelists, and then we will listen to the topics, which we have all spent a lot of time on. And lastly, we will do a quick Q&A where you can ask questions.
Hi, I'm Veda. I'm in 7th grade, and I will be talking about Norse mythology.
Hi, I'm Lemuel, and I will be talking about Chinese mythology.
Hello, I'm Vish, and I'll be talking about mythological creatures.
Forgot to make my introduction slide, but anyways, I'm Virat, and the mythology that I decided to take on was Greek/Roman mythology. They're quite similar, but they don't exactly have the same names.
Next. First, we have Indian mythology brought to you by Vaughn.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Vaughn, and I'm a 6th grader at Trinity Easttown Middle School, and I will be bringing you Indian mythological beliefs. Next slide. Okay, so what is Indian mythology? Well, more properly referred to as Hindu ancient history. Well, Hinduism arrived in the Indian subcontinent of Asia by Aryans. Aryans were skilled warriors that swept through India, Pakistan, and Persia. They settled somewhere near the Indus Valley and began the Vedic period. Wait, no, go back. Okay. Hinduism spread quickly. Hinduism is a polytheistic religion, meaning followers pray to more than one god. Most gods are just forms of the three main gods, Brahman, Vishnu, and Shiva. Next one. Note to keep in mind, many have dubbed Hinduism as pure fiction. Hinduism contains assorted stories for real events, and most gods are set as explanations for these events and are not the only reason for these stories. Artifacts still to date have proofs and marks of these stories. For example, the city of Ayodhya, described in the epics, stand today as a spiritual site for all Hindus. Next slide. So the topics I'll be talking about: the history, like the origins of Hinduism and Indian beliefs, gods, the three main gods and common forms of them, and the traditions, the symbols and traditions of Hinduism. Next slide. Okay, this is a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. He said, "I'm a Hindu because it is Hinduism that makes the world worth living. I'm a Hindu, hence I love not only living beings, but all living things." He lived from 1969 to 1948, and he was a lawyer and freedom fighter that fought for freedom during British rule over India. Okay, history. Where did Hinduism come from, and how did modern Indian beliefs arise? Origin. So India. India was not really ever truly together like state. But in the 8th century, the Mughal Empire had made their way into India and established Islam beliefs and unified most parts of India. Eventually that fell. Before the Mughal Empire, Ashoka tried to unite India, but that did not work as well. Before all this, India was just a set of kingdoms and tribes that ruled over their own separate pieces of land.
So
Hinduism was
technically, those would be like city-states, right?
Hinduism was brought by Aryans, who were master warriors. Their descendants, the Vedas, had developed Hinduism to what it is today. The periods of Hinduism and Vedas. The early Vedic period was when Vedic scripts were compiled and the first beliefs were expressed about Hinduism. Epics. The epic period. The epic period isn't directly from the word epic itself, meaning like an adjective. Epic is a story that is to represent a tale that was legendary in some way. The Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the Upanishads are all epics from Indian mythology, and they were made to describe the events that happened during the epic period. Puranic. The Puranic period was when forms of ideological beliefs formed about gods, meaning many people had developed their views and their own traditions for Hinduism. Now, the Classic period. The Classic period was when writing was fully harnessed, as stories were weaved from the great poems of previous writers. Aryans and Vedas were especially known for their great poems written in Sanskrit letters, which is now Hindi, and this script is recognized today as the national alphabet. So, the gods. Who are the gods? Okay, so here are a few images of the gods. The first one in the corner is Lakshmi. One after that is Ganesha. Ganesha is the elephant goddess. That's why his head looks like an elephant. And then after that is Hanuman, who is the elephant god, and he's mainly portrayed as holding a mountain because that's one of his great tales. After that is Krishna, who is often depicted as a blue boy holding a flute. Then below that is the Trimurti, which represents the three creators of the universe. Well, to be more precise, one is the creator, one is the destroyer of evil, and one is Vishnu, who is the protector of the universe. Brahma is the one with multiple heads. Vishnu is right after that, who has snakes over his head. He protects the universe. Brahma had created it. And then next to him, holding the trident, is Shiva, who destroys evil. Then the three Devi is a form of the Trimurti, but in a feminine version. So one form is the particularly fearsome Kali Devi. The Kali Devi looks like a monster and it's very fearsome. But Kali Devi is in fact made to defeat the monsters and demons instead of provoke them. So Kali Devi is worshipped today as the destroyer of evil, similar to Shiva. Then after that is Lakshmi, who is the form of Vishnu. Lakshmi is a protector, and Saraswati is a kind of creator that creates things. So they're all like forms of the other gods. Next one. So traditions. What are the traditions and symbols involved with Hinduism? So the Vedas. Okay, so the word Vedas is kind of confusing. It is not after Veda's name. It is in fact after the word of knowledge from Sanskrit. So explanation of the Vedas and their slokas may help in the understanding of Hinduism, as the Vedas are the base of the religion. Next slide. So there are 4 Vedas that are mainly compiled through books. The Rig Veda was the most ancient one, and it was made out of 4 books. Books 2 through 9 of the Veda. It was composed the earliest, and hymns, which are kind of like poems and written in verse. They are predominantly discussing cosmology, rites, rituals, and praise deities, meaning they give like information on how to perform rituals, rites, and how to pray for gods, some form of astronomy. Then there's musical Veda, the Sam Veda, which is mainly written for songs and prayers, and it influenced 6 schools of thought of Hindu philosophy, particularly the Hindu philosophy school of thought of the Vedanta. So the worship Veda was known, the Yajur Veda was known as the worship Veda, and it mainly contains praises for gods and rituals. After that is the medical Veda, Atharva Veda or Atharvana Veda, which contains prayers and medical knowledge, and that is portrayed in this Veda. Okay, Vedic slokas follow today. Here are some slokas that Here are some slokas that are followed today by India and Hindu people. So one is Dharma Rakshati Rakshitaha, which means the Dharma protects those who protect it. Dharma means eternal and inherent nature of reality regarded as cosmic law underlying right behavior and social order. Basically, that means that Dharma is what people must follow to keep peace in the world. So it's basically saying if you follow what's right, what's good, then what's right, what's good will help you later. So one more sloka is Vasudeva Kutumbakam, and it means the world is one family. This is a very powerful phrase that leads India from the beginning until now. It is in fact engraved in the Indian Parliamentary Building. If you walk into the building, it is the first thing that you'll see. One great example of the world is one family is the help for the Russo-Ukrainian war that India is providing. So India, unlike most other countries, is not supplying weapons, but is in fact supplying medical supplies and humanitarian support to Ukraine, and not trying to prolong the war, but help those who are affected by it. And the COVID situation, despite the crisis that's going on in India itself, India has been helping with the COVID crisis by exporting lots and lots vaccines to other countries. Then after that is Sarvejna Sukhino Bhavantu, which means may all the people in the world be happy and peaceful. Which there are more examples shown in the resilience of India with perceived bad countries. The Middle East has always been receiving supplies from India for their sake, and the Sri Lanka economical crisis was tamed by funding from India. Next slide. So there are some Hindu countries. So a lot of countries have Hindu people, but the main countries include Nepal, 75% of the country population, and India, which has 74%. Also in Asia, Bhutan, United Arab Emirates, and Sri Lanka have Hindu percentages between 13 and 22. And the island nations of Mauritius and in the Indian Ocean and Fiji in the Pacific have Hindu populations making up 49% and 28% of their population, respectively. In Latin America and the Caribbean, Guyana, Suriname, Trinidad, and Tobago are also in the top 10 countries globally in terms of Hindu percentage. I found it mainly interesting that in Nepal, a higher percentage of population is Hindu than in India, but it's not that confusing since Islam was spread by the Mughal Empire in India just a few centuries before. Next slide. Now, traditions. Okay, so we need to know some Vedas, Dharma, and some sloka. Well, we now know what they are, and so let's begin with the traditions, beliefs, and symbols of Hindus. So the caste system. Caste system is a belief held by some Hindus, and the people in the highest part of the caste system are Brahmins, people who are priests and scholars. Their caste was named after the creator himself. The two is Kshatriyas, which include warriors, kings, and the ones who lead the people below them. So basically, it's like the strong people, the people have power. Then after that is the Vaishyas, who are merchants and landowners, who are upper class, but they are still citizens. Then Shudras, which are laborers and skilled crafters that help society stand, and they are the true citizens. Below that is Untouchables, who, for whatever they have done, have put themselves into a caste where nobody would allow them to do anything better than people around them. So basically, they have kind of like a slave-ish kind of tasks, like doing jobs that are considered repulsive, like cleaning toilets. So there are celebrations that are performed in India. So that's a list of festivals and Hindu culture. There is a lot of names, but I will only talk about three of them: Holi, Vinayak Chavithi, and Diwali. Next slide. Here's Holi. So what is Holi? It is an ancient Hindu festival which became popular among non-Hindu communities as well. Holi comes after the arrival of spring, which also comes after winter, and signifies the victory of good over evil. As it's kind of similar to Diwali. It's celebrated as a day of spreading happiness and love, and the festival is also celebrated as kind of like a Thanksgiving for good harvest. One of the traditions of Holi is mass celebrations with pigment and color. As you can see in the image, people are throwing all kinds of pigments into the air. Next slide. Vinayak Chavithi. What is Vinayak Chavithi? Well, it's also known as Ganesh Chaturthi or Vinayak Chavithi or Vinayaka Chaturthi, and lots of names, but it's an auspicious Hindu festival which is celebrated for 10 days every year. The festival is celebrated in the Bhadra Hindu calendar, which generally falls in the mid-August to September. It marks the birthday of the beloved elephant-headed Lord Ganesha. Well, yeah, Ganesha is the elephant god, and he is known as like a remover of obstacles, similar to Hanuman. Okay, then what is Diwali? Diwali, or Deepavali, is India's biggest and most important holiday of the year. The festival gets its name from Ro, Avali, and clay lamps, Deepa. Most people light lamps outside their houses to symbolize the inner light that protects from spiritual darkness. Diwali stands for good over evil, as represented by lamps and dark. Okay, that's it.
Two quick corrections. Instead of Shat, you mispronounced Kshatriyas, and you also said Hanuman was the elephant god, but he's actually the monkey god. So now we have Norse mythology.
I didn't say that.
Hi, I'm Veda, and I'll be talking about Norse mythology. Next slide. Origin of Norse mythology. Norse mythology was the primary religion in Scandinavia for centuries, Scandinavia being the kingdoms of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. During 700 CE and 1100 CE, Norse mythology was being erased from history by Christians, and it started being dangerous to believe in anything else. Christians started burning texts and destroying Norse temples, practically erasing Norse culture from history. But there was an Icelandic person named Snorri Sturluson. Snorri Sturluson realized that a whole culture was being extinct, so he took it upon himself to do something about it. He compiled every bit of knowledge he had about Norse mythology, from the stories to the songs to the poems and the sacred rites, and he wrote it all down in a book called the Prose Edda at around 1220 CE. You might be wondering how he got away with all this while the Christians were book burning and destroying temples. That's what's genius about Snorri's writing. Prose Edda wasn't written like a religious text. It was written like a folklore through which the Norse beliefs were broken down into 3 sections. I'll be talking about the first section, Gylfaginning. It follows the king of Sweden named Gylfi, who ends up being tricked by one of the Norse goddesses into giving her some of his land, which she proceeds to break off and drag into the ocean with her giant oxen, wondering by the easier official name of race gods by using the trick of deception of Gylfi. He disguises himself as an old man and takes off for Asgard to get some answers. Only the all-seeing gods know about his plan and decide to play a trick on him. Instead of his route taking him towards Asgard, he finds himself in a magnificent foreign land face to face with 3 kings. And while this may not be an important detail, it's certainly an interesting one. Those 3 kings were all sitting at different heights. The lowest one is named High, the middle one is named Just as High, and the highest one is named Third. To prove himself a wise man, King Gylfi, who's going by the alias of Ganglir, is told to ask questions. At first, this may seem kind of odd, asking questions to prove your wisdom, but there may actually be a lesson to it. The lesson might be something like, true wise individuals realize they don't have all the answers and are always pursuing knowledge. And if by giving Gylfi the chance to ask anything, they'll be able to gauge his wisdom by what kind of knowledge he's pursuing. So the king on the top, the king goes on, asks the questions that I will be answering later on. Questions like, who is the oldest and wisest of the gods? How did the world get here, and what was here before it? The first question King Gylfi asks the three wise strangers is who is the wisest and oldest of the three gods, which the three strangers ask Odin the Allfather and proceed to describe his power. Odin is eternal and rules over the realms he made, heaven and earth. What's most important though is he made man, gave him a spirit that will never die, even when his body turns to dust and ashes. So Gylfi inquired about Odin before anything else, and that was Snorri's way of showing that worship and respect for Odin that must be placed above all other things. The second question Gylfi asked was how the world came to existence. This is the question where Snorri started talking about the Norse cosmology and how they believed the world was made. I'm talking the very beginning. There was nothing but chaos and emptiness. There was a few elemental worlds. The north was Niflheim, a world of ice, and the south was Muspelheim, the north, a world of fire. The empty chaotic world, the empty chaotic gap between the two worlds was called Gunungagat Gap. But it didn't stay that way for long. The flames from Muspelheim caused the ice from Niflheim to melt and drip Gunungagat, where it started to form an entirely new mass of ice. Then one of the venomous rivers flowed from Niflheim, spilled into the ice, as well as formed the venom of the evil giant Ymir. Ymir was born, but Ymir required sustenance. If he was going to write, well, lucky for Ymir, some venom spilled onto the icy landscape he was living on and formed a cow named Admule. So Ymir drank of milk to survive, and the cow survived by licking on the ice blocks. When Ymir fell asleep, he somehow gave birth to a son and a daughter from his armpit and his leg, and his legs had his own son. Together he had 6 heads. Weird, right? These children would go on to give birth to the rest of the frost giant race, known as Jotuns. You may actually seen the Jotuns from the Marvel movies. Now, as time goes on, the cow continues to lick the ice blocks and eventually uncovers the frozen body of Buri. Buri goes on and somehow conceive a son of his own, Bor. Bor marries Besla, one of the lady giants. It's also worth noting here that they're just being called giants doesn't mean they're massive beings, with Ymir being the only exception. Jotuns were about the same size as people. And while in some stories they're described as hideous troll creatures, others said to be alarmingly beautiful. Next, Besla was born. Besla got married and had 3 kids, Odin, Veli, and Ve. The 3 brothers, desiring to bring order to the universe, slay the chaotic monstrosity known as Ymir. And so much blood spilled from his wounds that it drowned the entire race of frost giants. Well, except for 2 frost giants. Berlmir and his wife escaped on an ark to rebuild their race somewhere else. Here's the thing. After Odin and his brothers killed Ymir, they couldn't just let his body go to waste. They intended to use every bit of Ymir's body, so they used his flesh to form the earth. They used his blood to create the oceans, lakes, and teeth. The bones were broken up to create stones and pebbles. Then they pulled off the top of his skull and made the sky with it, placing a dwarf under each corner. And these dwarf names are where we get the cardinal directions from. Austre, which means east, Vestre, which means west, Nordre, which means north, and Surdre, which means south. After that, Odin and his brothers took glowing sparks from Muspelheim and scattered them throughout the cosmos to light up heaven and earth. What you probably didn't know, that the stars were actually believed to be sparks from Muspelheim. The clouds in the sky were believed to be his brains. So now our realm Midgard had been created. The next step was to fill it with people. One day, the sons of Bor were walking on the beach when they found 2 logs and decided to create a whole new species out of these things. The first brother gave them spirit and life. The second brother gave them consciousness and movement. The third gave them faces, speech, hearing, and eyesight. Then they gave them clothes and names, Ask and Embla, which translate to ash and elk. After that, it was time for Aesir to build themselves a home. So they constructed Asgard in the center of the cosmos. So from there, Odin could watch over all 9 realms from Affelheim, the home of the elves, to Jotunheim, the home of the giants. Here's where it starts to get a bit confusing, because Odin's wife Frigg is introduced out of nowhere, and they get married and give birth to the rest of Aesir. Here's what makes it so confusing. Frigg is said to be the daughter of Fjorgen, a male personification of the earth. Now I'll be talking about the sun and moon. A giant named Fari had a daughter and a son, so beautiful he named them Sun and Moon. The gods thought this was arrogant, so they took the kids away from him and gave them the job of pulling the sun and the moon on a chariot around the world. To make sure they were staying on schedule, they were chased by 2 wolves named Skull and Hate that will eventually catch up and devour them. Now, Gylfi asks the third question: how did the gods get from earth to heaven? The answer to this question is on a rainbow. Only the gods didn't call it a rainbow, they called it the Bifrost. What makes this kind of weird and cool at the same time is that whenever people who believed in Norse saw a rainbow, they thought it was the gods traveling from Midgard to Asgard. Next slide. Deities of Norse mythology. There are many deities in Norse mythology. Here are some of the deities. Odin is the goddess of war and death, who, as I mentioned earlier, got married to Frigg, who is the goddess of marriage. They have 2 children, Thor and Loki. Thor is the god of war and fertility, and Loki is the god of fire. Balder is the god of beauty, light, purity, and joy, and Hod is the god of night and darkness. Thank you for listening to my presentation about Norse mythology.
Thank you, Veda. That was an excellent presentation, and I love the way that you presented it. It didn't have many visuals, but it did definitely have a lot of description. I definitely liked the presentation.
Thank you.
So, looks like we don't have Lemuel with us. Sadly, he had to leave, so now we're gonna go on to
You went way too far.
now we're gonna move on to mythological creatures by Vish.
Mythological creatures or monsters? Can you guess which one? Next slide. So I'll be covering mythological creatures from 3 different mythologies: Chinese mythology, Greek mythology, and Norse mythology. From Chinese mythology, we have the Teotai, which is, well, you'll find out. Then from Greek, we have the Siren, which, not to be confused with the Siren Head, is a mermaid-like creature. And then from Norse, we have the Draugr, which is a undead creature. So, as you can guess it, pretty much all of them are monsters. Next one. First, we have the Teotai, which this picture is from a movie that was made with them. Their characteristics are they have eyes on their shoulders, and there's many different versions of them, but they're said to have many teeth, a humanoid face, and a goat's body. They're known for their unsuitable appetite, which they'll eat anything and everything. The Tao Tai is an ancient Chinese mythological creature that is commonly put it on bronze and other artifacts during the first millennium BC. Tao Tai are one of the four evils of the world. The Tao Tai symbolizes greed, so kings and their servants were most of the time in jobs of making sure there was enough food to go around. The bronze item that was engraved with that were engraved symbols of the Tao Tai were used to make human and other sacrifices to the believed Tao Tai. Creatures like the Tao Tai were considered to be real and myth at the same time. And like I said, it has unsuitable appetite. They believe that humans' place in the world was to keep them off and fight them, and survival on them at the same time. Next slide. Here, now we're going on to the Siren, which is from Greek mythology. And like I said, Siren, not siren heads. In Greek mythology, the Sirens were dangerous creatures who lured nearby sailors with their enchanting music and singing voices to shipwreck on the rocky coast of their islands. It is also said that they can even charm the winds. Roman poets placed them on some small islands called Sirenum Scopuli. In some later rationalized traditions, the literal geography of the flowery island of Antimosia or Antimusa is fixed, sometimes on the Cape Palorme and others in the island known as Sirenes, near Paestum or in Cape Prey. Such locations were surrounded by cliffs and rocks. Next slide. Now we move on to Norse mythological creatures. The one we're doing, the Dragger, undead creature. I don't really have much info on this because didn't really have that much time, but here's what I have. Draggers live in their graves or royal palaces, often guarding treasure buried with them in their burial mound. Their revenants are animated corpses with a corporeal body rather than a ghost, which possesses intangible spiritual bodies. The dragger is defined as a ghost, spirit, and etc. And that's really all I have on the dragger.
Thank you, Wish, for such a great presentation. I definitely like the way that you described them. So now we have Greek and Roman mythology, and they are actually quite similar, even though they don't exactly have the same exact things in them.
I just want to point one thing out. The Romans conquered the Greeks.
We can talk about that later. Anyways, this is a huge family tree, basically, of all the Olympians, which would be down here, while the rest of the family tree would be representing pretty much the main characters of Greek mythology. Now, just like Norse mythology, the void or the start of the universe starts with chaos. Instead of being created by a bunch of people, you have Tartarus and Gaia and Eros, Erebus and Nyx, and these go on to Nyx gives to all these people, and they're basically just qualities, and more qualities. And then Erebus and Nyx somehow created the heaven and the day, and Gaia and Uranus created the Titans, and the Cyclopses, and the Achinida, and the Hecatonchyres. Now, Uranus created Aeneas, Gigantes, Melee, and Aphrodite is one of the first Olympian gods. Now, these are the main Titans that are known, and the two Titans mainly known are Cronus and Rhea, that gave birth to Demeter, Hestia, and Hera, which gave birth, also Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. Now, these are pretty much the main gods that are from the start, and these are pretty much the ones that are going to be describing. All the rest of these are some characters that aren't exactly particularly, how do I say this, quite important. Let's put it that way. Now, how do we know all about the Greek and Roman mythology? The polytheistic religion is quite a great one, and it has a lot of legendary myths and all kinds of others like that. There are very few texts that actually describe them, but there were a lot of sculptures, structures, artwork, poetry, and many clay pots that depict scenes from the mythology itself, in which we piece together on the Greek mythology itself. And some relationships in the family tree that you saw earlier was by pure guesswork and putting together stories. So not everything is directly depicted. They strictly believed in their gods, and the proof to this is that many great temples and sculptures were made just for them. Let's see some sculptures and meet the Olympian gods themselves. So, first we have Athena. Athena, its Roman name is also Minerva, and basically Athena is the goddess of wisdom and war, and Athena is very very known in Greek mythology. Then we have Aries, or also known as Mars, and Aries' sons include Deimos, which is the god of fear, and Phobos, which is the god of panic. Aries himself is the god of war. Next we have Zeus, and Zeus's Roman name is Jupiter. Zeus, he is the king of all the gods, and he's the god of thunder and the sky. And then we have Hades. Hades' Roman name is Pluto, and he is the god of the undead, and he is down in the god of the underworld. Then we have Aphrodite. Aphrodite's Roman name is Venus, and Aphrodite is the goddess of beauty and love. And this is Artemis. Artemis's Roman name is Diana, and Artemis is the god of the hunt. Many Romans actually praise Artemis a lot, as in those times hunt was a major source of food as well. And then next we have Apollo, and he is a god known for a lot of things: plagues, healing, artwork, poetry, music, and all kinds of stuff. He's quite a good god, and he actually doesn't have much of a Roman name. His Roman name is also Apollo. He stays the same. Now we have Poseidon, and you might actually know Poseidon, and he's quite a popular character, and his Roman name is Neptune. He is the god of the sea. Next, and one thing to point out here is that Poseidon rarely interacted with the mortals compared to the other gods. Next, we have Hermes. His Roman name is Mercury, and that's pretty much it about him. We have Demeter, which Roman name is Ceres, and then we have Hera, which her Roman name is Juno, and she is the god of hearth and fire. And then we also have Hephaestus, which his Roman name is Vulcan, and he's the god of fire and forging and blacksmiths and that kind of stuff. And then we also have Hestia, which Roman name is Vesta. Next, we also have Dionysus, and his Roman name is Bacchus. He is the god of wine. Wine is quite an important part of Roman and Greek culture. So that was pretty much it for my slides. Yeah, we can move on to the Q&A. So, do we have any questions? Vish, do you have any questions? Oh, looks like we have.
Isn't Hera the goddess of all the gods, and Hestia
Oh,
the goddess of the hearth?
oh, yeah, I made a mistake there. Hestia is the god of hearth and family, and Hera is the queen of the gods. Sorry for that.
It's okay.
Also, I just wanted to point out the thing that Athena's the abilities, and then we have which one was the healing and death again? Apollo.
Yeah.
Those two, their abilities don't match at all. They're exact opposites. Just wanted to point that out. Right.
Yeah.
So we done with the Q&A. Questions.
Veda, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. Then that was all. Thank you everyone for joining the Let Us Talk It webinar, and you can join in and if you want to help with the topic being chosen, and that was all.
Somebody raised their hand.
Yeah.
So, can I participate in the next topic?
You could.
What's the next topic though?
Oh, we're gonna choose.
Oh, okay.
Joan Auntie? Hello? Okay, we can join in on next Tuesday if we want to choose the topics. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. See ya.